I'd like to welcome you all to the school board meeting for August 28th, 2023. We're going to start with a roll call. Kinsey?
Gerlach,
Here.
Mills,
Here.
Lyerly,
Here.
Welch,
Here.
Leighton and Warren. Here. McCoy,
Here.
Becker.
Here.
Okay, all board members are present. Would you please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would someone like to please read the mission statement? Go ahead, Brian.
We educate all students to be college, career, and community ready, inspired to succeed in our diverse world.
Thank you. Next, I'll read the land acknowledgement statement. We, the members of the Green Bay Area Public School District, recognize and honor the original inhabitants of Northeast Wisconsin. Our district lives, works, and learns upon the ancestral homelands of the Menominee and Ho-Chunk nations and the current homeland of Oneida Nation. We acknowledge the 12 diverse and vibrant Wisconsin First Nations who have persevered here since before recorded time and continue to be integral parts of our community. We uphold our responsibility to repair relationships, initiate partnerships, and stand with all First Nation communities. Okay, next, we are joined by, are we gonna have two people tonight? Okay, Viva, will you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Viva Winkler. I'm the president of Intercity Student Council, and I'm a senior at Southwest this year.
Okay, do you have a report for tonight? That's okay. Y'all get to take the summer off and do what you're supposed to be doing during the summer. We'll hear from you next month. Yeah, okay. All right, next then is the public forum. We have a number of people who want to speak tonight. Let's see here. We're going to take them in the order that we received them and okay, here. Oh, got some more. All right. The first person is Maria Rodriguez. If you'd like to please come to the podium.
Okay. Buenas tardes, tengan todos ustedes.
Would you you please state your full name and your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Mi nombre es María Rodríguez, 1328 de la Han Street, código postal 54303, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Okay. Bueno, estoy aquí. Les agradezco que me den la oportunidad de expresarme, de expresar toda la angustia que estamos sintiendo. Ojalá que muchas de las mamás como yo, muchos de los padres como yo, estamos súper angustiados. Yo me acabo de mudar aquí al estado, aquí al distrito de Wisconsin.
Will you let Luis
Okay.
catch up?
Okay,
Yeah.
despacito tú me dices, okay.
Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to address the board and everybody in attendance. I'm one of the parents in the district. I recently moved to this district and I feel pretty anxious, and I have a lot of questions about some of the current situation that I've been hearing on the media regarding the state of potentially closing some of the schools with the district.
Okay.
Así para los dos.
Sí, ok. Yo me acabo de mudar aquí al distrito de Green Bay, como les había dicho, con la intención de meter a mis hijos. Llego, me encuentro, me informo que van a cerrar las escuelas a las cuales ellos pertenecerían. Estamos súper angustiadas. He platicado con muchísimos padres de familia, muchos padres de familia que están angustiados, preocupados, no saben qué va a pasar, no sabemos qué va a pasar. Estamos angustiados. Ustedes no saben la angustia que nos da a nosotros.
So I just recently moved into the district coming from the Pulaski attendance area. Around my community, around my neighborhood, I've talked to a lot of parents that, whose kids might attend some of the schools that potentially will be closed. And it's creating a lot of anguish. It's creating a lot of anxiety around those lines.
Nuestros hijos están angustiados, ansiosos. Muchos de ellos, ustedes como padres, como maestros, saben la angustia que se les causa cuando se les va a cambiar, cuando se les va a mover de escuela. Muchos de los niños están preocupados porque van a perder sus amiguitos desde el Head Start, desde el Kinder, y no saben el impacto que se les hace. Entonces, yo les suplico, por favor, que no cierren las escuelas, no por nosotros como padres, por nuestros hijos, por el futuro del mañana.
So I would like to state that in conversations with my own students, with my kids, they have also expressed a lot of anguish, a lot of anxiety, potentially knowing that they might close some of the schools, that they might end up attending, and also probably ceasing some of those deep relationships that they've had created over the years with the students who were their classmates and attended even from the Head Start program. I'm here to plead that to please reconsider to take the steps to close some of the schools.
Y como le repetía, habemos muchísimos padres. Ojalá que todos tuviéramos el valor de estar aquí, expresando lo que sentimos, expresando lo que sienten nuestros hijos. Es una angustia constante. Por favor, no nos cierren nuestras escuelas.
I wish a lot of parents will have the opportunity to use this platform just like I'm doing. There's a lot of parents that we conduct conversations on a community basis, and they all have expressed the same anxiety about the potential steps for the district will be taking about closing some of the schools. So please hear me out from a parent perspective. Do not close some of the schools.
Les agradezco mucho la oportunidad, les agradezco por escucharme. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to address the board.
Thank you. Okay, next is Gabriela Parra. Okay, so it just might take a moment. Okay, Gabriela? Can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Gabriela Parra. I live at 915 Taft Terrace, Hartford, and I currently serve as one of the chairs of NewLid. In addition to my involvement with NewLid, I'm speaking today because of my strong ties to Green Bay. This includes my nephew and nieces who attend Doty Elementary. I also speak on behalf of my immigrant clients who reside in Green Bay, contribute to its economic growth, and whose primary goal is to secure excellent educational opportunities for their children. In light of the recent Supreme Court ruling that prohibits the consideration of race during the admission process, the obstacles that BIPOC students face in accessing higher education have intensified. Our collective aim should be to ensure the success of our students in K-12 education, thereby improving their chances of university admission. Any decisions made by this board must take into account the changing demographics of its student population, 60% of whom identify as BIPOC. Failure to recognize and prioritize the significance of race and ethnicity in your decision-making processes marginalizes a large portion of the Green Bay student body and undermines the overall quality of education. One issue this board has overlooked in it is that even before the recommendations of Schema 12.1, Latino and BIPOC students face numerous barriers to accessing quality education in Green Bay. While the pandemic has exacerbated these disparities, reliance on the flawed foundations of Schema 12.1 will perpetuate the inequities that Latinos have long faced. It will continue to add layers of barriers that hinder Latinos from achieving academic excellence, unlike their white counterparts. This board and the district bear the responsibility to ensure that the current systems do not perpetuate harm to Latino students' college readiness. For instance, according to YSAS, of the 84.2% of Latino students who completed high school in 4 years, only 33.6% enrolled in higher education institutions. This is a stark contrast to their white counterparts who have a high school completion rate of 92.9% and a 52.1% college attendance rate. Schema 12.1 has merely exposed the inequities that have long existed in this district and across the state of Wisconsin. NewLid is not asking this board to focus solely on one specific demographic group at the expense of others, as some board members have previously implied. As a woman of color, I understand that diversity involves more than one demographic group, as President McCoy reminded us at the last board meeting. However, the complete dismissal of the fact that Latinos are disproportionately impacted by the recommendations of Schema 12.1 is unacceptable. This is especially true when a majority white task force recommended closing 2 predominantly Latino schools on the east side and positioning K through 8 in the majority white schools. Your oversight and disregard of this issue have not only frustrated me, but also many Latinos who have long felt ignored. We are as exhausted by having to remind this board of its responsibilities as you are by our actions to do so. Among MULIT's advocacy efforts and commitment to closing the achievement gap for Latinos is the urgent need to refocus this district's vision. The limited scope of Schema 12.1 seems to imply a focus on attracting and retaining white students. We urge the board to expand this vision to include investment in the future and policies that support the success of Latino students. As board member Mills often reminds us, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get it right. And yes, President McCoy, the district's demographics are changing. Not only is the district already a majority minority district, but Latinos are projected to make up 50% of that population within a decade. Therefore, any disregard or downplaying of race and ethnicity in discussions related to Schema 12.1 comes across as insensitive and reveals a troubling disconnect from the community you are entrusted to serve. Furthermore, our treatment as respected professionals and contributing members of the Green Bay community has been disconcerting. From the outset, our qualifications have been questioned, our concerns dismissed, and we have been gaslighted. We've been labeled agitators and accused of being confrontational merely for asking questions. Some board members have even attempted to mislead us about the proper channels for voicing our concerns. If this is how we as established professionals are treated, it raises concerns about how Latino parents and students are treated within this district. I share these experiences a call to arms for communities of color and our allies. We must remain vigilant and unafraid to hold this board accountable. The power dynamics may be skewed, but that doesn't make our fight any less significant. The students and communities in Green Bay deserve better. Board members must understand that their actions are not only unacceptable, but also under scrutiny. Exposing such issues, however difficult, is a crucial step for preventing their reoccurrence. To the Latinos and our allies listening, I urge you to continue supporting each other and harnessing our collective power to expose and combat such injustices. Lastly, I have a recommendation for the board. True collaboration can only occur in safe spaces where people can share their experiences and be heard without fear of diminishment. To my fellow board members, silence is complicity. It allows unjust systems to remain in place, negatively impacting communities of color and vulnerable communities. I appreciate those board members who have acknowledged our concerns and are pushing for change. Thank you for taking the time to listen and for your commitment to making a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Yola Diaz. Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
So my name is Yolo Diaz, and my address is 1122 Pleasant Valley Drive. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Yolo Diaz, and I currently serve as one of the chairs of NULED. In addition to my involvement with NULED, I am a doctor at the NEW Community Clinic, whose mission is to provide access to quality, comprehensive, and compassionate healthcare to the underserved in our community. I've been a doctor for more than 20 years and have worked with the Green Bay Latino community since then. I am here today, like Gabby, to discuss our concerns of how this board has undermined and disregarded our concerns regarding Schema 12.1. The last board meeting's discussion demonstrates that there is still a lot of work to be done to ensure that this board understands the inequities in Schema 12.1, specifically the disproportionate impact of Latino students and communities of color. Last board meeting shed some light on how even our well-researched arguments have been ignored and diminished. Even beyond the complete lack of indifference some of board members have shown regarding our efforts to collaborate with them is the disrespect we have received by some board members. I would like to remind this board that NULED was created when a group of Latino professionals realized that Schema 12.1 would disproportionately affect the Latino student body. But when we voiced these concerns using the proper channels, we were dismissed. Our initial goal was to get answers to our questions as to why 3 predominantly Latino schools were being proposed for closure, given the Latinos continue to have a steady increase in enrollment and is projected to grow to more than 50% in 10 years. Our goal is sharing our well-researched facts and to demonstrate why we consider Schema 12.1 to be an unfair proposal to address the budget deficit. We wanted to support this board by voicing our concerns and working together to make the necessary changes that would ensure equity and access for a quality education for all the children in the district. However, we feel that from the beginning, we were denied the opportunity of having an open dialogue. We were told by a board member and some district staff that we could not meet with the board. However, we did have some discussions with some of the board members, and those meetings seemed to give us a ray of hope that changes were going to be made, and we felt that we were heard. But later actions from this board have demonstrated that our concerns were not taken seriously. During this entire process, we have felt unheard. Because of the disregard to our concerns, we had no choice but to mobilize our community to attend the public forums. We were disappointed to learn that even as respected professionals of these community who have an excellent reputation and have worked with the Latino community for many years, we were dismissed by some members of the board and the district prior to Dr. Tiller's time. As Latinos, we have learned to be resilient in moments of adversity. It is engraved in us to always find a way and not to be defeated. We felt a sense of responsibility to begin informing the Latino parents about the situation because we knew that transparency was not happening, and we were right. When we started meeting with parents, we realized that most of them were not informed about Schema 12.1 or had learned about it from their children, some children as young as 5 or 6 years old. We were telling their parents that their schools may be closed. We should be ashamed for placing those kids in a very difficult and traumatic situation. We received different treatment depending on where the public forum happened when we decided to go to the forums. For example, in the May 8th public forum that occurred in West High School, we were allowed to ask questions. However, the next day on May 9th, the public forum happened at East High School and the public was not allowed to ask questions. These microaggressions created frustration and indignation. We only were allowed to speak after the tabletop discussions, and when we asked our questions and voiced our concerns, we were labeled as confrontational. I am sure that you are probably aware, but in our Latino culture, we have a different way of expressing ourselves. But we created a discomfort from some of the board members and the district, and we felt that their comments showed the lack of cultural awareness of some members. We felt disrespected when people were telling us how we should protest and suggesting that we needed to be quiet and submissive. Due to the fact that we, again, did not get any answers, we had people mediating some meetings for us so that we could talk to some members of the board and see if we could reach some consensus. One of those meetings happened in the city of Green Bay. Again, we felt that we were ignored and did not reach solutions. On the May 24th forum, we again voiced our concerns. Our community showed up and the board took notice that Latinos were not in support of Schema 12.1. We felt again that the board had heard us and that changes were going to happen. We attended the June 4th meeting with anxiety, but with hope that the board had listened. We were taking aback when we saw 2 police officers at that door policing the meeting. I am not sure why it was necessary to have police presence at that meeting, and I have yet to see officers again, but it is a concern that action was taken. We left the June 4th meeting, however, with hope that we were heard. There was no vote to approve the
Ms. Diaz,
plan. Yes.
can you wrap it up? The 5 minutes have come and gone.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
I know again on the June 14th meeting, the last meeting, we did feel that we were not listened. Lastly, I would like to say something to the student councils that are present here. I want to tell you that in these meetings, we have witnessed how those in power and those who have been elected by the people have unilateral and biased decision. However, the demographics on this country are changing, and doors are being open to allow those that have underrepresentation for a long time an opportunity. We invite you as students to do things different. Make sure that you invite to the table those that don't look like you, those that may be shy, and you will be a better leader and a better human being after all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Grazia Villarreal. Please state your name, your phone, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, President McCoy, members of the board, Dr. Taylor, and community members. I am Dr. Grazia Villarroel of 927 Oakmont Court, Hobart, Wisconsin. I'm a political science and international studies professor at St. Norbert College, a member of NULID, and I lived in Green Bay for almost 30 years. My children attended the Green Bay area public schools, and I'm very committed to this community. Today's comments come from statements made at the August 14th school board meeting. The NULID community believed that any revisions of Schema 12.1, including the resolution parsed out from Schema 12.1 on June 6th, would prioritize equity. We anticipated the involvement of a specialized equity firm to review and adjust Schema 12.1 from beginning to end. On August 14th, we discovered that the entity once labeled an equity firm is now merely a vendor. Moreover, this vendor's main task is not refining Schema 12.1 regarding equity, but instead defining the boundaries of this flawed schema. Mr. Lyerly's comments on August 14th heightened our concerns. He avoided the term equity when discussing the advisory committee's charge and objectives, suggesting that members of the advisory committee might not understand equity issues. These actions prompt a crucial question: when and why did our shared emphasis on equity vanish from these essential discussions? I'd like to highlight 4 primary equity concerns with Schema 12.1 and the June 6 resolutions. First, despite the sharp decline in the West Side student population, which now represents only 1/3 of the Green Bay area public school students, Schema 12.1 allocates most of its resources to the West Side, including proposals for a new elementary school, which would cost over $50 million, and significant financial investment in a K-8 at Franklin Middle School. Second, Green Bay area public schools has lost an average of 350 students, white students in the last decade every year. Schema 12.1 proposes adding 2 new K-8 schools in affluent East Side area, especially McAuliffe Elementary and Langlet Elementary, to prevent this loss, while none are added in primarily Latino and BIPOC schools. Instead of closing thriving Latino schools and schools like Wikiak and Da Vinci, Green Bay area public schools could have focused on marketing schools with unique and successful programs like Da Vinci and Wikiak and bilingual programs, which would have retained most likely white student populations. Unfortunately, Schema 12.1 proposes segregating our schools by directing Latino students away from Doty and Webster to Eisenhower, and by sending white students from the very same schools to Langlade. This approach ensures that white students will never attend Edison Middle School or Washington Middle School. This proposal negatively impacts our Latino BIPOC community. However, it also is detrimental to our white student population because they will lack the skills to work with diverse communities, just as the global marketplace demands bilingual and culturally competent employees. Third, not only does the proposal neglect the Near East Side regarding new K-8 schools, but it also suggests closing 3 majority Latino schools, 2 of which are on the East Side, Doty and Washington Middle School. This move is inequitable because the Latino student population has tripled in size in the last 2 decades and will likely be 50% of the schools by 2032. Finally, shifting high school boundaries to the west is another element of this proposal designed to exacerbate segregation. We've heard suggestions from at least one board member about changing the boundary from the Fox River to Webster Avenue. Such a move would channel students from predominantly white K-8 schools such as Da Vinci and Aldo Leopold to West High. Also, by redirecting a significant Latino cohort from Preble High, already nearly 50% Latino, to East High would result in Preble losing most of its diverse population. And East High would become 100% Latino and BIPOC. Green Bay has truly never seen this degree of intentional segregation. We initially viewed schema 12.1 as inequitable due to its potential school closures and resource allocation decisions. However, a more careful analysis suggests that the deep segregation of the east side is a more damaging consequence of the schema. Equity should be more than just a buzzword adorning the walls of the Green Bay area public schools. It should ensure fairness, access, and opportunity and progress for all. In conclusion, Newlet urges the board to understand the profound implications of their decisions for our diverse communities. In light of this turn of events, we ask that you please immediately abandon schema 12.1 as the foundation principle for any decision-making. We ask you to prioritize equity, including race and ethnicity, in every decision you make. And we ask that you ensure that at any advisory committees and diverse voices are genuinely empowered to prevent groupthink and segregatory policies. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." Please don't expect us to remain silent in the face of these injustices. We are grateful for board members who are already aligned with these premises. However, we ask all board members to rise to the occasion and lead Green Bay toward an equitable and inclusive future for all of its students. Your decisions today will have a tremendous impact on our Green Bay community tomorrow. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. I'm sorry, I can't read this handwriting, but this starts with an A. The first name is A and the last name is H. Is that, oh, please. Please state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name's Ali Her. My address is 1925 Harold Street. I am just a concerned mom. Since school is coming up, I wanted to come out here and talk to you guys about how the school, the Green Bay School District has handled bullying. My daughter was bullied. She was actually beat up at Preble High School. And we went and got a restraining order against the person that beat up my daughter. We got the restraining order through the courts. I brought the restraining order to the school, and all I requested of the school was I'm like, I really wanted the other person to get expelled, but then they said that's not possible. So I requested that all I want from them is to not have my child in the same classes as this person. I proceeded to get an email from the principal stating that the restraining order is just between the two persons involved, that it is not part of the school, so the school cannot do anything for my child. I just think that it is ridiculous that it is so hard to get two kids to have different school scheduling. I'm just so upset with how the school has, tried to help me out with this, which they have done nothing. I would like to see a change in this policy. Like I said, I'm not asking for a lot. All I want is, the two, my daughter and that other person to not be in the same school, in the same classes. That's all I ask. And I don't know why there is policies involved that they said that they could not help my daughter feel safe at all in school. So now with school coming back up, my daughter is having a lot of anxiety about going back to school. And I really thought about pulling her out of Preble, but why does my daughter, the one that was a victim, have to be the one that has to be pulled out of the school, pulled from her friends? Why do I have to be the one that has to remove my child from her friends when it was the other person that was involved I feel that they should have been expelled from the school. That is all I have to say.
Thank you. Dr. Tiller, did you want? Someone? Okay, all right, very good. Thank you very much. Next is Brian.
I suspect this was happening, but per our guidelines, the board can direct a member of the administration to follow up on this, and I'm
It's
assuming that's
happening
being
right
taken
now.
care of.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Next we have Mary Lou Yang. Please state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mary Lou. Yeah, I live at 364 Laverne Drive, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I am a parent. I'm a member of the Hmong community and I'm also a mental health nurse. I recently became an advocate for the Hmong American Pacific Islander community due to the lack of transparency and communication when schema 12.1 was proposed to close down schools in May, and no further information was translated till even now. So since the vote on June 5th, until now, I have tried multiple attempts to set up meetings with the previous interim superintendent, Ms. Vicky Byers, who had met me actually that night of June 5th and had mentioned, hey, we're actually looking for a Hmong liaison and been looking for one for a long time. And I thought, hey, this is a wonderful idea. Let's have a further discussion on this, because all I'm looking for is just to rebuild the trust and communication for the Hmong community. And if we could extend that further, that'll be wonderful. And each time I had reached out, I had constantly asked at the end of each email, let's set up a time to meet. Here's my phone number. Give me a call. Let's chat. And nothing, right? So all of my attempts were sidelined. Dr. Tiller, you were also CC'd in all these emails as well. So I had given you time to settle in after 2 weeks or so in July. I had reached out as well. And my attempts there felt also sidelined. You had redirected me to say, oh, we do have one. And you had given me a name and I'm like, no, this person has a completely different title. So Ms. Byers had reached back out to me and said, yes, we actually don't, we actually don't need one, and we're really just going to utilize our translators. So what I found concerning about that is you guys have well-qualified translators, and you guys had failed to direct them to communicate with the Hmong community, or even to extend it further, the AAPI community. Secondary to that is, all I'm looking for is just a bridge, just person to help bridge this gap. So that way our AAPI students could also tap into the resources that the Green Bay School District has. Green Bay School District has so many different opportunities or resources here that the AAPI students are actually being left behind in this situation. They are just a cluster of kids in like the middle child. They're not naughty enough. They're not dropping out enough. They're not failing enough. So nothing is happening. Nothing. I mean, literally nothing. They're not getting pushed the academic skills. They're not getting pushed their sports, athletic skills. They're not even getting additional resources for mental health in that way. And speaking of mental health, I had spoke to a lot of family and students over the summer. And what was concerning to me was what kept coming up was harassment and bullying. And it was really concerning because the words of safety came into play. And safety is key at the school district when our children are in their school. So I had taken upon coordinating an anti-bullying campaign for the AAPI students. Now it's become a campaign because AAPI students are told by their parents strictly, you need to behave, do not cause any trouble, do what you're told, and get the day done with. But that also in turns, these children are in the middle and they are completely just going to school, just go to school. They're not getting pushed academically and their mental health is not being supported in any way. And all I'm asking for is just for the schools to help us tap into those resources so parents can learn to navigate the schools and talk to the school staff members. So bullying, harassment, you have just heard a case from Ali. This actually happened right in front of the attendance staff at Preble, right in the school. It wasn't outside school, it was inside the school. Yet the schools couldn't do anything. And so a restraining order had to be done because the school had said, sorry, we can't do anything. That's really sad. Our children should not have the anxiety to have safety concerns when they go back to school. So many cases are underreported because the AAPI students specifically do not feel like they can trust any staff members to go to. We need to rebuild these connections. Why do these children have to suffer on a mental health aspect? Because these bridges are not being built. Lastly, I want to say that with the API, the anti-bullying, campaign here. We're going to be hosting at the Green Bay Hmong Center on Saturday, October 7th. I want to extend and invite the Green Bay School District to also bring and send your API professional staff over. I want to continue building this bridge with you guys. And that's all I was asking from the beginning, but all my emails to the previous superintendent, the intendant now, and the school board, there was no meetings that was only be set up. And all I was asking for, it was just saying, hey, let's work together. I want to show the students that there's somebody at your school that looks like you that you could turn to. And that's really what matters, is when somebody looks like you, you feel like you don't have to start from the ground up of explaining who you are and what you came from. It's already there, so they can trust those individuals and really turn to them if anything was to happen. Thank you for your time. And again, that's Saturday, October 7th. I'm hoping that you guys can collaborate with us on that with a family engagement. We're going to have our students come out, have our parents come out, and just, meet the different API professionals if you guys are willing to work together on this. I said, this is something for the kids and not just for me or the parents. Thank you.
Right, thank you. This is the last person that I have. So if there's other people in the audience who want to speak, fill out one of the forms and get it to Kinsey, but this will be the last person otherwise. So, Maria Lara.
Hello.
Hi, hello. Please say your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Sure. My name is Maria M. Lara. I live at 2532 Huntington Way South in Suamico. Although I live in Suamico and do contribute there previously as a board member, a school board member, spent a lot of time in Green Bay as a co-founder of the Latino Professional Association, knowing that a large community of Latinos exists here in Green Bay. This is where a lot of my work is done. I spend time in education and also in the professional sector, whether it's one industry or another. And I'm still, unfortunately, very concerned about what's happening in the Green Bay School District. I was very encouraged during my last appearance at the board in May during the open forum at Washington Elementary. I was encouraged by the amount of engagement from the community. I recently joined NULET as part of the leadership team because I was discouraged in the August meeting. The August meeting demonstrated to me that the conversation about Schema 12, unlike I had thought, has not been closed. Instead, it's still being used as a foundation for future decisions. I'm concerned about this because I thought it was very clear in May and over the course of the summer that the schema has problems to it, including equity. So it concerns me that it's still a topic of conversation. I'm concerned that it's going to continue to influence future decisions, whether it's a task force or even an equity analysis. At this point, I really do think that Schema 12 should really be shelved as a project, unfortunately, that did not work. An attempt to address the deficit issue that did not work. It's a sunk cost at this point. However, it did generate some wealth of information. I was extremely impressed by the work that NULET did prior to me joining them, going door to door, speaking to parents. There are other groups here who have mentioned the work that they have done to let parents know of other communities, what was planned in the Green Bay School District. But I'm discouraged by the fact that I continue to hear Schema 12 still used as the foundation, as a reference, that will influence future decisions. I teach in post-secondary schools. I work at NWTC in the College of Business, and I spend a lot of my time with professionals, but I know that at the foundation is a healthy, vibrant, well-rounded and equitable K through 12 education. I'm excited about what Green Bay school districts can do for all communities, including the Latino community, but it's not going to happen, and it's not going to be a positive outcome if we continue to rely on a flawed proposal, on a recommendation that was made before the summer that generated so much discourse. And in my book anyway, good discourse. It gave you an opportunity to hear from groups like LPA, from Hmong professionals and other communities. It gave you an opportunity to hear what parents have to say. We have a parent here tonight, but there are a lot of parents that aren't here. And NewLet provided some of that input for you. So to me, even though it's a sunk cost, the analysis that was done, the recommendation that was made by the task force, it was valuable information, feedback that you can use moving forward. But the value is not in using it as a foundation for future decisions. The value is in continuing to foster the relationships that you created with this engagement over the course of the summer. I'm concerned about the fact that I'm hearing that NewLet and other groups are not having conversations with the board outside of these forums. But when we come and speak here, we're really speaking at you. My back is toward the people that are behind me, and that really doesn't lend itself to healthy discourse where we're going to be able to create solutions that are best for our kids. And I say our kids because obviously the education of children in K through 12 affects all of us. Those of us who live in Green Bay, those of us who live in Suamico, those of us who live in Northeast Wisconsin, and so forth. So it is a personal concern of mine. I'm excited about working with NewLet as part of the leadership team. I was encouraged by the amount of engagement that I saw in May. And I have to say, discouraged by the fact that I keep hearing Schema 12 be used as the foundation for future work. As far as I'm concerned, again, it's a sunk cost, but it did provide you valuable insight, valuable information. But in order for it to be valuable, it needs to be utilized moving forward. So I look forward to conversations where I'm not just talking at you or have my back to other people. And I welcome those conversations in the very near future. Thank you.
May I ask you a clarifying question? Are you aware that the leadership of NewLet has been meeting on a monthly basis with our superintendent?
I have not been part of those conversations yet, but even if that's the case, I don't know that there's been any conversations between the board and the community. I mentioned that NewLet took it upon themselves to go literally door to door to meet parents to ensure that they were informed of Schema 12. This prior to June 5th. But to be honest, that is the work of the board, in my opinion. It is the work of the school district, in my opinion. So unless the board and the school district has gone out door to door to have further conversations with families, I still think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I'm excited to take part in that.
Thank you very much. Okay, that completes our open forum. Next on the agenda is under the consent agenda approval. Would someone like to read the motion? Go ahead, Brian.
I move that the consent agenda items as presented be approved.
Second. Any discussion, any questions? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Thank you. Next, under discussion, there's a legislative update, which the report is attached. Lynn, did you have anything to add to that? Go ahead.
I would like to just explain a few things here. You have the legislative update. It has three main, it says 1, 2, 2, but it's supposed to say 1, 2, 3. First of all, of course, everyone knows and has been hearing about the fact that we now may be volunteer bus drivers in our school district. Okay, that's number one. Number two is a little more serious. This is Senate Bill number 378, and I want to make sure you understand that this is a bill. It's in committee. It is not, has not been passed as a law, but I think we should be tracking it. It states that if it is passed, it will require each school board to designate an athletic team or sport as falling into one of 3 categories based on the sex of the participating pupils. It's either a male team, a female team, or a male and female team. And sex will be determined by the birth certificate, reflecting what the sex that the physician assigned to the child at birth. It would require us to prohibit a male pupil from participating on an athletic team or in an athletic sport designated for females. And we would have to notify pupils and parents if the school intends to change a designation. So just wanted you to be aware of that as it's working its way through committee. And then I know that the last one is Act 20, the Science of Reading Literacy Law that has been passed into law. And this is not going over that at all. I thought it would be good to share with you, in case you hadn't seen it, that CISA is offering advice to districts about how to be proactive. And I'm certainly not going to read this to you, but this is the advice that I found that CISA is offering. I think CISA is a good source to listen to. And so I just wanted our staff and our board to be aware of this advice. And note at the very end, CISA is offering a 6-session training called Leap into the Science of Reading. I don't know anything more about it. I don't know. I assume it's for staff. I don't know. I doubt that it's for board, but I just wanted you all to be aware of it. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your report. Any questions? Go ahead, Andrew.
Not to put Nancy on the spot again, but is this a good direction? Is this a flawed direction? Is this a mixed bag? As probably the person who is in this room who certainly lived this the most.
Are you talking about the Act 20 or the CISA part? Both?
The Act 20 and
Oh, sorry.
I guess I would assume you may have some knowledge of the groups that are verified to do the trainings, maybe some of them, which might give a clue as to whether it's good stuff or it's flawed stuff or.
Well, I really do appreciate the fact that the reading program will be changing in Green Bay, because I feel that that was one of the main reasons why I did become a board member, was to fix a universal curriculum for our kids. So I'm really excited about that. Then I was thinking, oh, now they're going to have another advisory committee, which is like another bunch of people. And I'm thinking the closer the money is to the kids, the better it is. And I'm thinking, will it be just another hoop to jump through? However, I did hear that they are looking for people, and I'm really anxious to see who they are going to pick for this literacy committee. And hopefully it'll be a bunch of teachers and things that can really give some good input. So I'm excited about it. So we'll just have to see. I'm not really familiar with all of the things from CISA, but you know, the more we talk and the more we do, it's really good. And one other thing I hope they look for in the Act 20 thing is, yes, reading is really important and the science of reading is important, but the science of child development is as important or more important to me. And I hope they will address some of those things as well. Thank you.
Anybody else want to discuss or have questions? Okay. All right, thank you, Lynn. Moving on to referendum updates. I was wondering if Josh could come up and just sort of talk a little bit about some of the progress. This chart that you give us around this is always so interesting to see the incremental progress that is being made. And I was surprised to see, just for instance, that the roof at Franklin is nearly complete. It must have been a huge project.
Yeah, it goes slow until it goes fast.
Oh.
That's for sure.
Okay.
Summer's been very busy. I guess I can summarize the changes since the last time I talked to you, which I believe was at the end of June.
Okay.
That east fire alarm is, I know I have it complete on there. I would say substantially complete. I think we're waiting on one more part for some fire doors. The Edison windows, along with the ceiling and lighting, are currently out for bid. I anticipate that at the special board meeting on the 5th, we'll have a recommended vendor for those two projects. I think you're gonna like where the bids came in on those. As you mentioned, Franklin roof is nearly complete. Jackson Playground is complete. We're having a ribbon cutting tomorrow afternoon on that. Oh, that's right, Wednesday afternoon, sorry. Wednesday. 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, ribbon cutting at Jackson for the new playground. The chiller for Lombardi has been ordered. We've been having some problems with some availability there. Preble Stadium turf track and buildings, near complete phase 1 of 3. So phase 1 includes the field itself, the expansion of the restrooms. So there will no longer be, for those of you familiar with the Preble site, there was previously a combined restroom concession area that's all restrooms now. We'll be selling concessions out of the storage shed by the entrance, which is obviously not ideal for this season. That also includes the completion of the track, long jump, triple jump, all of that stuff, and a team room at the top of the hill towards the field house there. So very excited. I was just out there this morning walking on the field. If you get a chance to drive by, it looks beautiful. We're very excited to have our first game on that field September 15th. The district's getting trained up. I think it's this week on care and repairs and things like that. So we're just about ready to take occupancy of that. Very exciting time over there. Preble parking lot is complete. There may be some landscaping, but it's complete. We've got the asphalt in at Red Smith along with the cooler and freezer. The tennis courts at Southwest are getting close to being done. Baseball field at Southwest, construction has begun. If you drive out back at Southwest, it's a big dirt pit right now. That should be hopefully wrapping up later fall, so we can use it in the spring. The Southwest roof is nearly complete. Southwest Stadium asphalt is complete. And then some of the big projects at West are currently out for bid. That includes locker rooms, the gymnasiums, and the weight room, which will include an expansion of the wrestling room as a change in scope there. I will also say, I know that many of these have been in the architectural design phase for a long time, but it's really ramping up for the West Stadium. We're starting to get into kind of that detailed design, and I hope to have, potentially some detailed designs along with some revised 3D modeling to share with the board soon. One thing I do want to make a correction, that Edison track and long jump, I believe, is complete. I have it as construction underway, but I believe that is complete. So, yeah, we've been busy this summer.
I just want, going through this list is always really interesting. And this particular referendum slate of projects is very, is distributed throughout our district, whereas the last referendum focused primarily on East Side schools with huge additions and a whole brand new school. And a lot of upgrades in our East Side schools happened in the last referendum, but this one is kind of spread rather equally throughout our district. So, and it's just always great to see this chart, to see all the progress. And I'm always reminded when I look at this, the huge amount of commitment this shows from our community and how they support our schools. And I'm always, grateful for that, I guess. So any questions, Andrew?
Was I first?
I'm not sure. Go ahead.
All right. When are these West bids due, and when might we see some kind of, I guess, some kind of visible thing happening in the West building?
Not sure the exact date that they are due. I believe it's around the very end of September or the beginning of October. We're planning to have shovels in the ground first or second week in October.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Brian, are you next? Okay.
Josh, just two quick comments relating to Preble and East, and it had been mentioned before with Baird having a brand new school there and the investment that's been taking place on the east side. I had the opportunity I wasn't working for a football game, and to witness Preble playing at East, and the positive reaction that I heard from people of it just being similar to prior to them having a stadium. So to come back to City Stadium and be able to play, it was great to see the schools work together to make sure that those students had the opportunity for a really, really close to a home game out there with being just a mile away. So I just want to thank the work done by our staff to make sure that could work out. Having a daughter that's enrolling at East, she was going through and we were looking at the parking lot, and she pointed out that the parking lot was in rough shape. And it's my understanding, and there's a couple other people that had asked about that because that is a city parking lot, it's one of those weird things where there's a partnership between the city and the school district, and that does not necessarily fall on our shoulders for the parking lot at East. So we're hoping the city will take care of that at some point, but especially to keep my car from bottoming out when I go to visit. So thank you.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you again for keeping such good track of this. This was a huge ask of the taxpayers. And I just feel really good that you're constantly keeping track of what's happening and what isn't happening. And I just want to ask if community members want to see this and get a regular update, can they find this on the website? Is it available to people easily?
We've been posting it as an attachment to the board meeting, but I don't. Is it on the website, Lloyd? So there you have it. Lori will add the list to the website. And if you want to go and see some drone footage, go check out our website. It's pretty neat. I know she was out there getting some shots today.
The drone footage is amazing, and our communications department's been really hitting it out of the ballpark on pushing out information, because like I said, this is an investment by the taxpayers of this community. And so, they can see not in real time necessarily, but regular updates. I walked out I stopped at Preble a couple weeks ago and walked out to just witness the work, huge amounts of work happening on the football field there. And I kept hoping someone like a project manager would come up and ask me what I was doing so I could ask questions, but they were all really busy and it didn't happen. So, but it's we're going to do something very similar to West next year. Upgrading these, I know some people don't put a lot of emphasis on these facilities, but it speaks to our commitment to our kids to have good quality athletic facilities. The districts around us do it, and our children deserve the same. So I'm just really happy that we've been able to do this, Brian.
And just to speak off of that as well, this is obviously something we're seeing in fall, but the availability for those fields to be able to be used for spring sports, for track, for girls soccer, for other events that are taking place will help out tremendously as well. So thank you for taking this on.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Josh. Okay. Next is number 6 is discussion update on board's resolution related to facilities master planning task force recommendations pertaining to community impact of repurposing schools to 4K through 8 facilities and proposed school boundaries changes. My understanding is that there isn't an update at this time. No? Is this going to be where we talk about okay, very good then. We're going to be talking about the ongoing work around the charter and James, I know that James has been working on this, but I know Lynn had some recommendations as well for changes.
So before we get started, Lynn, I appreciate the information that you're going to share tonight. Before we go there, we didn't receive anything from anyone else. I just want to make sure that if there are any motions or anything that you want to offer as far as changes, whatever, that we just kind of make sure that they're accounted for. This, just for everyone's understanding, it's not a vote tonight. We have to go through some finalist presentations for the two vendors that submitted responses to the RFP. Josh, if I'm not mistaken, that's on September 19th, right? So what we're trying to do is to constitute and build out the charter. They will provide some input into the charter as well, based on their experiences. So we're looking at this actually being voted on and probably in the October timeframe as far as final discussions in the working session, and then for approval, so that we can then start actually constituting the committee, right? So the primary contributions for tonight that I think we should go over is Lynn Gerlach has provided some edits and options around membership. So Lynn, I know that you have some materials.
Again, this is a work in progress. It's not going to be completed tonight. Everyone just take a moment, have a look at it,
I would like to talk it through if I may,
please.
rather than just have people take a look at it.
Okay.
I gave this to Kinsey in the form of slides if she feels she should show it for everyone. I have no idea. So it's available if you think it should be shown. So please first notice that this is just about the membership on the advisory committee, and that it says proposal for consideration and improvement. I don't know if this is wonderful. I'm open to your suggestions, but I just wanted to get us started. So first of all, I'm proposing that the committee will be comprised of 12 to 16 members. I don't think it's smart to give it a number and then try to reach that exact number, because you might have more qualified people or you might have fewer qualified people. If she makes that bigger, you'll be able to see it. We'll just wait for Kinsey to catch up here. Okay, so, and I think that we need to specify that this committee collectively should roughly mirror both the demography and the geography of the district. Okay, stop me if you have questions. Okay, otherwise I'll just keep going. I suggest that all prospective members must complete an online application via the GBAP's website or a paper copy of that application. In other words, everybody gets an opportunity in the same way. Nobody gets invited because they're somebody's friend or that sort of thing. Nobody's left out. Those applications should be made available in several languages, and it will be the sole source of consideration in choosing the committee. So if I have someone I think ought to serve on the committee, I should tell them to go and fill out the application. Board members are welcome to encourage people to apply. Of course, anybody is welcome to encourage people to apply. Thirdly, the application will provide an opportunity to demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and abilities and other characteristics most likely to contribute positively to the work of the committee. In other words, we're not just looking for people who have a particular thing in mind that they want to accomplish, but they're willing to and able to contribute to the work of the committee. For this committee, we will seek applicants, and I did my best here. I chose 4 things: who demonstrate A, knowledge of and or experience with the school district or a portion of the school district in any capacity. I think it's a mistake to say we will have X number of teachers and we'll have a principal and we'll have parents. There might be people who have experience with the district that don't fit into any category you might have thought of. Experience on a decision-making or advisory committee. I think that's important. Experience working with a diverse population. And there are many definitions of diverse. It can mean diverse learning needs or learning skills or learning abilities. It can mean ethnicity, can mean socioeconomic or a lot of things. And commitment to finding solutions through discussion and debate. The selection team will strive to assemble a committee that represents the ethnic makeup of the school district and all geographic parts of the district. Per board policy 185 that we just passed this summer, the selection team will include the president of the board and the superintendent. Together, they will arrive at a list of 12 to 16 proposed members. And I suggest a list of about 6 alternatives should they be necessary for 2 reasons. One, if someone at the last minute says, you know what, I really can't do that, and then we lose somebody. Or if a board member says, there's absolutely someone you chose that I think should be replaced by someone else. The Board of Education then will review and approve the list. So then is there anything you want to talk about before we look at these, at what I think might be on the application? Yes, Andrew?
Go ahead, Andrew.
I guess I do just want to say, because this is essential to me voting yes on a final slate, is that there needs to be more than, there needs to be 2 or more student members on it. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is the ability to have an alternate if there's a major, test coming up or a conflict of activity. And the second thing is there can be power dynamics when you have if you had one student and all adults in the room, even if it's a very well-spoken student, even if it's just better to have at least 2, and perhaps some kind of provision for an alternate. If 0 or 1 students were included on the list, I will vote no. So.
Go ahead, Brian.
Andrew, how would you propose that those students be selected? Because I could envision them going through the general application process with this as well, but would you have recommendations for students coming through student council activities or through, how do we get that interest generated?
So we'd have to see how it aligns with this, but there is provision in place that intra-city student council would nominate members for committees. I would think that would certainly be a part of it, and I would think at least one of if there's going to be 2, I think at least one of them, if not both, needs to be intra-city student council or both. Probably everyone. If we're going to say everybody fills out the form, then everybody fills out the form. But we do have in board policy that student reps to district-wide committees are, there's a conversation with ICSC about it.
Just to kind of answer that question, I know Viva, you already have some thoughts about this, but we don't really know yet what this looks like. Once it's in place, then I'm sure you can offer some input. We'll circle back. So thank you. All right, go ahead, Brian.
James, thank you. I just have a follow-up with that part. I think that there's nothing limiting age or residency or activity involved within the Green Bay School District on here, which is fine. I think we should make sure that we open it up to students, and work with Melissa and our legal department on how we can do that to make sure that we're not isolating, but we're also not we're addressing the age part and how residency and expectations with that. I like your idea, Andrew. I think that students should also have the opportunity through the general process that if they're not involved in student council, or if they're due to whatever their schedule is or anything else like that, that they have that opportunity as well. So.
Go ahead, James. Yep.
I appreciate this, Lynn. This, I think, moves the charter along significantly. I am committed, and I would like to know other board members' perspective on constraints to membership. I agree with you. I don't think we should say there has to be two administrators, or there has to be two parents. I do feel strongly that we should not have a committee of administrators or of things. So that's what this was intended to be, is that no more than X% or X number of the membership should be employees of the district or should be parents outside the district. So I appreciate the very broad strokes around membership that you painted. I would like to hear others' concerns about whether or not we should constrain some membership type, right, around administration.
And I would like to respond to that as the author, because I thought this through very carefully over a long period of time. This is my third draft of this. I think that it is wise to first create a universe of qualified people who have the knowledge, skills, and ability and background to do the job well together, and then look at the details. So let's say, optimistically, let's say you get 40 people. Let's say you get 50 applications, and from that you choose 40 that you say, these people are qualified. We haven't looked at anything else about them. We don't know if they're parents, students, their ethnicity, anything. We just know that we've looked at their qualifications. And then now we try to choose from that universe the people that will best fit what we think. And maybe you, and I guess we're turning this over to the president and the superintendent and asking them to make that judgment. I guess rather than saying, you know, you can't have too many of these, or you should have X number of these, I would rather they have the opportunity to choose qualified people, and then they use their judgment in saying, now let's make it look as much like the district as possible, and let's make sure we cover the whole district. So that's the approach that I was taking, to make sure we don't start painting them into a corner before they have a chance to consider the big picture. I could be wrong though.
I mean, this is a brand new policy that we're working under. It's never been tested before. So that's why this feels awkward and cumbersome, but it has to happen. We have to have these conversations, and so that we get to a good resolution. Go ahead, James.
So I appreciate that. I wasn't trying to constrain the application process. You're right. They're getting a population of members, but if we're going to offer examples, if we do this and we get 20 applications, 12 of which are employed by the district, I think we should start over, right? I think that we should not end up with a committee that is heavily weighted by one stakeholder group and not, so, you know, reissue an application, whatever that. So, you know, what number of around the constraint, or if it's a percentage or whatever, I'm less concerned with that, but I do want to direct the superintendent and the president of that something at one point it becomes inbound, right? And that it is skewed too heavily in one way or the other. And what you want to have happen isn't going to happen based on the universe. So maybe we should rethink. That's all.
And I would trust them to say that.
Go ahead, Brian.
I think when we're looking at something that is dealing with education by nature, you're going to have educators show an interest in it. And I think that their employment shouldn't necessarily disqualify them for it. I think that we want to get as big of a pool as possible and then let it kind of work its way from that part. But I disagree with the concept, and I know it's rhetorical. Well, it's an example with it, but I think, where do we look at educators then also? You know, are they district employees? Because educators are also in other areas, you know, so it gets to be a bigger part of that as well. So there's a lot of people employed by the Green Bay School District that will have a vested interest in what takes place, and demonstrated by their choice of careers as well with it. So just wanted to put that out there as well.
And they're also our neighbors, and they're also taxpayers. And yes, it's not just what they do for a living, it's that they're citizens as well. So yeah, it won't be easy, but Andrew.
I would tend to agree, although I think naturally, I think the process will sort itself out that there's employees and there's non-employees. I guess I would wonder if maybe we should put, there should be this very carefully there, and it's not because of who I like being on committees or not, but because of roles. Higher level administration, central administration, I see as people who would be, receiving this report and reading the report. And so I would think that probably over a certain level, we wouldn't want to have administrators over some, certainly beyond, certainly above the principal level I don't think should be on this, simply because they would be receivers of the report.
Okay. Brian,
I agree, Andrew, and I think that we've put a lot on the plates of those people as well, and to have that time would be valuable for them as well with it. I guess my goal is to not have people eliminated because of their position, but also not selected because of their position. So.
and that dynamic actually is going to apply to most of the people who applied, apply for this. Yes. Yeah,
This might be kind of a stupid question.
no stupid questions here.
Would members of the previous task force be allowed to serve?
I think that I've thought about that. Like, I've given that some serious consideration. I don't know if the rest of you have any opinions about that, but if only to have one person who's been through that process, who can speak to it and convey kind of the general, the work that has already come before, that might be valuable, but I don't know how everyone else feels about it. Hang on just a second, Brian. Is there anyone else? Go ahead.
I appreciate the work that the previous task force has done. They had a charge. They met that charge from us. I would be shocked if they wanted to give more time for this. And I'm not saying that, like, they're dedicated community members, and we have a lot of dedicated community members in our community. And I'm sure that while I'm going to speak for them, they're willing to let other people step up and take the next step with it. So.
Okay. Lynn.
On the other hand, I agree with you, Brian, but on the other hand, there just might be one or two people who served on that task force that would now look at this and say, now this is where I really belong. And so I don't think we should discourage them from applying. Again, I will say, I will trust the president and the superintendent to look at these applications and make some good choices. And remember, I'm suggesting they bring us some alternatives too, so that if someone really feels they've made a mistake, it will be easy to say, please replace Mr. Brown with Mrs. Smith.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in? Andrew.
Yes, I just want to see if this is the intent of people on the same page. To me, just when we say knowledge of or experience with the school district or a portion of the school district.
Which part are you referring to? Andrew?
3A.
Okay, thank you.
I guess at first I looked at it and I said, okay, that seems to have a pretty wide, that casts a very wide net, but is this an and or an or? Because I want to make sure that for lack of a better term, regular everyday citizens who have not done this before are not lower on the list because they didn't go on a committee before.
I think that knowledge of or experience with, so that would cover parents.
Well, it does, but it's not, I guess it's not clear that it could be interpreted as A, B, like you are the best if you are A, B, C, and D, which would give an automatic nod to having been on one of these before. And that may be desirable it is desirable probably to not have all people who have never been on a committee before, sure. But I just want to make sure that that's balanced and doesn't imply that, if we have 30 applicants and 20 of them have been on committees before, that shouldn't mean that the 10 who haven't are, you know, lower in points, so to speak.
May I respond?
Go ahead.
I was thinking, yes, that if you have all of these characteristics, you probably are more likely to be an attractive candidate for the job. But I'm thinking, when I say served on a decision-making or advisory committee, I'm thinking of people who have served in elected office, people who have led their PTO, people who have served on a church committee.
Volunteers.
I'm
yep,
not talking about they've served on a school district committee.
Right. So maybe we have another look at that and just say something about community engagement, large scale, like across the board. It doesn't have to be even linked to the school district, just some commitment to community building on all kinds of levels. So go ahead, Brian.
When looking at part A, 3A, I think it's very important that we have district residents as part of this committee. And I think that every school district has different opportunities for people to participate, and that this needs to be focused with Green Bay School District residents making up this committee. So I recognize that it says a portion of this, but making sure that
Oh, no,
that is part of it.
I think it's my understanding that you have to actually reside within our school district boundaries in order to be on this. Go ahead, Laura.
Are we looking at Lynn's and James's combination and going to marry the two, or are we looking at this?
Right now, I'm just looking at what Lynn is proposing. I'm sorry, I couldn't say for sure what, how they would marry together at
Okay.
this point. So hang on just a second. Did you have any response to that?
I would say that if you think that that should be put in there, we just put it in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I would prefer.
Yeah, and I was speaking of this in the general, the big picture of it, not necessarily specific to one or the other proposals or drafts that we've seen. I just think that ties in on 3A to, I wanted to stress that part, so.
Okay, yeah, no, I think it should be a definite requirement that you live within the boundaries of the district. So go ahead, James.
So Lynn, you brought up a point about 5B that I had not interpreted it the same way that you had, where I had just imagined that the 6 alternates be available in the event that someone decided they can't do it, we could backfill. I don't know how I feel. Okay, no, I'm uncomfortable talking about individual people in public around the board table. So I had imagined that they would bring a slate and alternates, and we would vote yes or no on the slate. I don't know how to navigate a conversation in public around replace person A with person B without jeopardy. So if we need to put that in, I would appreciate the clarity. If other people thought that we were going to come in and be able to challenge particular people on a committee in public, I would like clarity there.
Yeah, I don't want to, yeah, that would be very hard to have that conversation. Andrew.
Can I?
Oh, please, Lynn. I'm sorry.
Just so that you know what I was thinking. Laura had brought that up, that concern. And so I was thinking, if there is someone on our board who can't vote yes, who can't approve it because of one person or 2 people, this would be an easy way for them to simply say, I would like to replace this one with that one. And I don't have to ask a question about it. I don't have to make them justify it. I would hope that we could just approve the list and the alternates. But I was just trying to build that in case,
Okay.
but you fix it.
I think what we're doing is acknowledging that this is sensitive and difficult. It could be tricky. So go ahead, Andrew.
So there's a couple, there are certain things that you can do, and there's some precedent for this when we do, when we have historically done the selection of board members, except for the The one time it was done, that discussion and debate was intentionally cut completely out of the process, even though we got someone really good at the end of it. But prior to that, there are things you can do that are, we would talk about board members who applied, and there was just kind of a general idea that discussion at the table focused on positive qualities of who board members were advocating for. I am very confident that there is a limited range of circumstances under substantial adverse impact, even if it's applying to a committee like this, that you have some limited range to go into closed session if you need to. That is not common, but I am very confident it's legal if we had to. I would imagine this would be a list that would be visible at, with some time in between the creation of it and the vote. You could have members advocating for the addition of someone without saying someone has to be subtracted if they felt a certain perspective was missing. So I think there's ways this can happen publicly focused on positives, and there's ways that if you had to, and it couldn't be a concern mentioned privately through the proper channels prior to the vote, I just think there's a lot of ways that there'll be input. But I need to, this is a very important committee, so if I think something important is missing, some important perspective is truly missing, my vote would have to be no, but I think we'll be able to get there.
Okay, James.
To Laura Layton and Warren's previous question, Lynn, I'm assuming that when I look at the old charter, this is intended to replace the membership section, the member qualification section, and the member nomination section based on the form and the suggestion. So I'll make those changes to the document, given these, if no one has any issues. And so we'll have an updated version for our work session in next month, right?
So should we turn it over and look at the
Yeah, let's
application?
just go very quickly through
Yeah.
this. What I'm proposing, what might be on the application. The first one is supposed to say name. It does on ours, but it doesn't say, I must have dropped it off the slide. Sorry about that. I do think they should put their name on it. By putting their address, that allows for that geographic representation. I do think it's important when you get all these qualified people that you don't suddenly look at it and say, oh, doggone it, they're all on the west side, shoot. You got to get that done. And then explain your current or previous connection with GBAPS. Again, that leaves it wide open so that we don't define, you must be a this or that or the other. We might learn something from this. Number 4, please name any previous advisory or deliberative bodies you have served on in the past, including but not limited to elected office. Briefly describe a challenging group decision you were part of in the past, including what made it challenging and how it was resolved. Please explain your experience with a diverse population of any kind. I will tell you honestly that I first had asking them to identify their ethnicity. And then someone pointed out to me that it's probably illegal to do that. And how are we going to find a mirror of the demographics of our district if we don't know something? So I thought that would be the way to do it perhaps, but you all can fix it. If you currently serve in a representative role, what group do you represent? Note that such a representative position is not required for service on this committee, but it's a good thing for the people to know. And what is your primary reason for wanting to serve on this advisory committee? And then I assume that we'd like to maybe get in touch with you and ask you for clarification. That's it.
Okay. Brian. Laura, go ahead.
On this portion, thank you for pulling this together, both of you guys. I know it's a lot of additional work, and I am Are we still able to bring comments back before we vote on this at our next work session?
Oh, yeah,
Is
no,
still-
we're not gonna vote.
Okay,
next
still,
time.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
I think for number 4, please name any previous advisory or deliberative bodies. I wonder if we could just make that a little bit more simple language and talk about any teams, committees. I know we don't want to oversimplify, but just to get, I think I just make it more simple to have so people can put in what they
Forms of community engagement. How's that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
To word it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So
Okay, yeah. no,
and then my other comments are more broad, so I'll wait for those as we're going through this portion.
There's a couple of things that I would like to just throw out there to see if anyone else feels this way. First, I would like to ask if you would be comfortable putting something on here that said, can you commit to attending all the meetings? Because we had some problems with the task force. Some people didn't attend, and that caused some problems. And the other one is a request that this form, whatever form it takes, finally, that all the answers have to be, all the questions have to be answered in order to be considered. So you can't just put your name and your address and that you have to fully fill out the form. We need all the information we could get to make a good decision and I don't know, just what, go ahead, Brian.
I think we want to make sure that we're also making this as open and casting as wide a net as possible for people to come in. If they don't have experience working on a committee and this is really piqued their interest, then I think we need to find a way to let that happen. So as we go through the questions of winnowing that down and I'm looking at Laura because I'm guessing she's done some of this maybe in her career. I'm not sure. And if not, I feel really awkward just looking at you saying that right now. With it of making sure that we are getting as wide a body as possible for it. The other question with making sure they can meet the meeting dates, we need to have that established beforehand, just as, or at least a guideline of what dates are you available or time on there, because we're gonna get people that are involved. And,
Yeah.
We have our school board meetings posted a year out of the dates outside of special ones. So being able to look at that calendar and taking into consideration work schedules and just different things that pertain to it, we need to make sure we at least have some guideline of when we are looking at meeting and the
That's-
flexibility of it.
That makes it difficult because we won't know that when people are filling out this form, we won't probably have that schedule yet. So the point is for people who might be chosen to fully commit to attending the meetings. So go ahead, Laura.
Can we have the schedule?
I don't know exactly how we would generate that. We don't know who's going to be doing the facilitating yet. We haven't hired that entity yet. I don't know, James. if you
I'm thinking exactly what Brian's saying. We may have, one of those things where you're looking for a job applicant, you want to make sure that they're able to do the work, the hours you need. So that
Right.
might help us
I mean,
narrow it
maybe
down
we
as
can
well.
say we're gonna have these on Wednesday.
Wednesdays,
nights.
right.
Yeah.
I think we should narrow it down. So
If-
we can
if-
come up with that.
Yeah, if we can, and that should be workable for whoever we hire to do the work. So then that would be super helpful. Go ahead, James.
So, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But-
Wave your arms around.
But to be clear, the sequence of events is we have to have chosen the vendor. They will have input into this charter. It is reasonable to think that we can go through some scheduling activities to provide that, and then we'll open it up
Okay.
for submission. So
Right.
we'll try to get to as clean a schedule as possible.
Okay. Go ahead, Nancy.
That's what I was going to
Oh,
say.
okay. Very good. All right, go ahead, Brian.
Looking at people's work schedules, life schedules, and trying to cast as wide of a net as possible. Is there a way that we could look at the possibility of 2 committees working on the same topic coming in? My reason is specifically looking at work schedules and flexibility and making it as possible for people to participate.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, let's maybe talk about that if you have a more of, like, I don't know how that would look. I don't know how that would work. I need to know more about that. Anyway, go ahead.
I just want to plant the seed for
All
that
right.
possibility with it.
It is planted. All right. Anybody else, as far as the application, what that would look like? Anybody else have any input on that? Go ahead, Lynn.
Let me just say that I don't have any special expertise in creating such applications. Please just take it as a starting point and fix it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right, then with that, we're going to move on to, oh, I'm sorry, Laura.
I have a more overarching comment.
Okay.
In hearing some of the concerns and also our discussion last week, I know we looked at initially calling this an equity analysis. And then it's moved from that to boundary adjustments as it's moved on. And I recall the discussion at our work session really being about that the whole purpose outcome of this is about equity, which I understand, but I do think considering we talked about the ASTNR really being about the bricks and mortar, and this part really being about the people, although boundaries are not people, but looking at people, that I do think it's important to have equity in what this task force is about.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
Anyone else want to chime in on that? Go ahead, Andrew.
We touched on this last time, but I guess kind of piggybacking off of that, to me, looking at equity could include a committee saying, I don't care where you draw the lines between X and Y and Z. It's not equitable because you closed A and B and moved people. So I don't know what that looks like. I know there was discussion of board members bringing their own proposals if they think there are issues. And I do think there are some, not all, but some issues with regards to where the kids would land. But I do think if we're saying, well, the committee, I could see a situation where the committee says we can't find an equitable boundary here because you split up these neighborhoods and move them. These neighborhoods get split up and put on buses, and these neighborhoods continue to walk to school.
James.
And I agree with you. And Laura, I do think we need to go through and make sure that we surface equity in the proposal on and the purpose of the charter. So I think that's a question of wordsmithing. The challenge, and we went back to the resolution that was voted on June 5th. The task force was to challenge whether or not we could implement the transition to K-8 in an equitable fashion, right? And so we have all the demographics, because I agree, we do not want to end up with segregation, right? And in the resolution, the outcome being more integrated is in that resolution, right? And it is stated that our goal here, so we can lift that language, we can put it in here, and I appreciate that, and making sure that everyone understands that at the end of the day, you're right, it may come out that the task force says the nature of the closures in here, we're going to have to bus or transport a certain population more than another. Where we differ was they should call that out, not say, do this and this and this instead, because we're not going to give them the information necessary to say, all right, let's go back. Here's all the ATS&R and here's all the information about these buildings and their scheduled maintenance and everything. What's the best alternative for this brand new group of people? But to say, we can't do this in an equitable fashion. Absolutely. I understand that might be an output of it. Now, the other thing is, I don't think I said a board member should come up with alternatives, but again, same resolution directs the district to say, get creative. There's a Webster, there's a Washington, and this K-8 is a ton of change. The task force may not have had all the information and relationships necessary to provide alternatives to what ATS&R proposed. do that, right? So the district should be able to say, hey, in the boundary analysis, consider repurposing Webster or other changes. I don't know what that would be. And the district is looking at proposals. So I have a hard time imagining an effective use of that group of people's time to, go back to Blue Sea, right? And start making movements that will then lead to other justifications and other analysis work. So.
Brian.
Throughout this process, I've said this is our once in a lifetime, once in a generation opportunity to really fix what we're doing. And that brings up a lot of areas to improve: school start time, busing, opportunities throughout our district. We have 42 schools in this building or in this district right now. 1/6 of them have no boundaries as far as geographic boundaries from what I was doing in my head. So not just Da Vinci and Aldo, NEW, Dewey, Catherine Johnson, School of Innovation, Minoka. That's 7 schools I can come up with right off the top of my head that we have unique learning opportunities for our students. So when we're looking at the geographic part of it, we also have to embrace the fact that we have fantastic schools throughout this district and find ways to make sure students can attend those schools throughout the district. So they have those opportunities outside of one school. Looking in the high schools, Preble is the one that's at capacity. The opportunity to enroll in different high schools is there, and to make it as friendly as possible for students and families that want to do that. So I understand the border concerns with it as far as our boundaries, but 1/6 of our schools, we have community opportunities in some capacity, and to expand that will definitely help our students and our families and getting that transportation figured out in some capacity.
I think go ahead and respond, and then Andrew.
Totally get it. I understand that the advisory committee was commissioned under a specific charter for a K-8 transition and the impact it has. Every board member has the right to come motion or resolution changes to start times and to transportation to make the district work. But as long as we're talking, not talking past each other, that you think that would be a task or something that should be considered by this boundary commission, because you're right, they're not going to focus on those 6 schools, right? Because there is no concern for them.
Planting that seed again. So now there's 2 seeds planted with that, as far as making sure that we're taking that into consideration, whether it's under this part or our next discussion topic, that all the pieces are coming together. So while this charter is addressing the K-8 part of it, let me just answer your question, James. Yes, I understand. And I agree.
All right, we probably should go ahead, and then we should probably keep moving.
Yeah, I think somewhere in here, I think everyone seemed to be suggesting it was a worthy topic of discussion at some point, is what is the value of a neighborhood school? And it's different to all of us, but it's isn't, or hopefully isn't, zero for anyone here, and it isn't, or hopefully isn't, infinity for everyone here. That being said, schema 12.1 places the value of that at very near zero. Maximum money savings versus how many versus potentially closing 1 or 2 fewer buildings. I mean, I didn't get I don't know where it sounds like there isn't going to be necessarily a chance to vote no on schema 12.1, but instead the elements of schema 12.1 are up for votes in different places, such as one tonight, such as one that might have been a couple weeks ago. And that's okay. I just want to make sure that I don't want to have it be decided by default at the end that there wasn't a chance for different types of things to come up. There are ideas that have been floated here about doing something similar to something similar along the lines of what's done at Civil Hop that is not available for the Green Bay district? And could it prevent people from leaving the district and therefore be revenue neutral? That wasn't in schema 12, nor was anyone asked to, nor was 18 SNR asked to create it either. But if this is gonna be, like Brian says, once in a generational, something unique, I want to make sure the something uniques get to be put in there rather than just talked about and then, oh, the votes have happened, the referendum was written, and it just, I want these ideas to be voted up or down in the end.
Okay. We need to focus on the charter and this document that Lynn generated and focus on that. And we're kind of spilling out into other things right now. So Brian okay, all right. Is there anything about these suggestions that Lynn made that we need to talk about any further? We're good? Okay, go ahead.
I just have a question about, where is it? About the superintendent and the president of the board. You changed that.
Yes, ma'am. I changed it because I found out I was wrong. I was reminded that we had just passed policy 185 and I went back and read it and I was wrong, so I had to fix it.
Okay. And you did run this by Melissa Thiel Collar.
Yes, she said she had no legal problems with it, but of course she didn't hear our conversation.
All right. I mean, she'll have to have another go at it at some
Yes.
point. So, okay. Very good. Then we're going to move on in the agenda here. We're at number 7 now. Discussion on consolidation of Wequiak Elementary School to Red Smith. Attached is the memo from Dr. Tiller. You've all had a chance to read that. Dr. Tiller, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, is there any other discussion? Andrew.
So this would be the second to last step. This would be final. This is instructing the administration to bring the final plan for board approval. So for example, not that I think this is going to happen, but if I thought that the environmental programming portion of it was not adequately reflected in the changeover, which I don't think that's going to happen, but if I did, there would still be a chance to vote yes on this set of directions and a chance to vote no if we felt that something was not met, correct?
Go ahead.
Can you rephrase that? So you're saying, I don't understand what you're saying on that.
So the last line of the resolution is, and present the plan for board approval on or before 11/1. So this is essentially the second to last step. We're directing the administration to write a plan to. Otherwise, what is being approved by the board on or before 11/1, or is that come up in it's weird that we're having a discussion and a motion about the same thing as two separate items. So
It's a little awkward. I agree with that, but this gives you a chance to discuss the contents of this memo, which goes into some detail that Dr. Tiller generated. And then the next under action items is the next thing. So have you read the memo that's attached?
yes, I didn't understand why we have this twice.
Yeah, it is a little awkward. I agree, but the staff is working on the plan, and there will be a plan. Go ahead, James.
I think that you're right. It's an anomaly with the agenda. that it's in two places. When I looked at the memo, I considered all the questions and directions in the resolution of June 5th met, right? They had gone through, they had done, and so there is, obviously there's action items, right? They actually have to do the movement of equipment and look at how they would incorporate the curriculum at Red Smith, right? Those, and from my perspective, were not predecessors to the decision that's in the action items to consolidate, right? So when I looked at this, I thought all the conditions for our vote had been met. The agenda 7 versus 8, I think we will do that differently potentially next time, but I don't think you're going to get any more information from the district to inform your vote.
Lynn.
First of all, appreciate this memo, and I thought it covered all all our concerns. I also agree with James that I felt good about it after I read it. And my understanding is that if we vote yes tonight, we are giving the staff the directive to move forward on this, and we're putting it in their hands. Right, Dr. Tiller?
That is absolutely correct.
Brian.
Just want clarification under other on page 3, when it's talking about the district saving per year by closing Weequahic, there's some phrasing in there that I want clarification on. When they're talking about classroom savings, when they're saying save through attrition, this is not a layoff of Weequahic staff, and it mentions it a couple of other times in there. The board has approved policy before as far as reduction in force and to address concerns with this. So a teacher at Weequahic is not automatically going to be laid off because of the building they're at. When someone is employed, they're employed by the Board of Education, the Green Bay School District, not by an independent building. So clarification to parents and staff members, this is through the attrition process that we've approved before in board policy, and the district has had a strong history of doing. So because one building's impacted does not mean that those teachers will be losing their jobs. We will find spots following board policy and staffing needs and everything that had been approved, I believe, 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay. Andrew.
I still need to, I appreciate the breakdown. I'm still trying to, I'm just still not fully understanding where we have like classroom salaries too. I get that because you're combining students into Red Smith. I don't get where we come up with more than a couple of other people. So can I just get a refresher on where, besides the administrative intern, a clerical position and a custodial position, like how do we get 7 unneeded positions there, or 7 positions that would be consolidated plus 2 classrooms?
I'm not sure who can answer that question, actually.
Josh.
So that comes from a couple of spots, as you mentioned, the facilities, building engineer, halftime library media specialist, halftime library clerical, full-time main office clerical, the administrative intern.
Does that answer your question? Andrew?
Yeah, there are a number of support positions within the building that would be able to be moved to another building.
Right, but if we're moving to another building, that's not a net savings, right?
It would be moving into open positions at other buildings that would otherwise be filled by an outside hire. So rather than hiring someone from the outside, we take someone from the inside and place them in there. That's our usual displacement process.
Okay, so these are these would be situations where you maybe have some type of staff member, para or special ed that might be meeting because it's week-week with a group. They could be doing a group of 4 over here, but are doing a group of 1 because they can't be in 2 places, those types of things.
Yeah, so I have the breakdown here. 1 facilities tech, halftime library media specialist, 1 administrative intern. 0.4 speech language pathologist, 1.4 regular ed paraprofessionals, 1.1 monitors, 0.6 library secretary, 1 office secretary for a total of 7. So, I mean, so just addressing, say, paraprofessionals, monitors, first of all, I think we have about 20 paraprofessional positions open at any given moment. So it's fairly easy to place them. The same with monitors, same with facilities positions.
So if hypothetically, and I'm not asking about anyone's individual situation, but presumably, let's say a student had a one-on-one para and the student was going to go to Red Smith, then you would not have counted that as a reduction of 1. But if there was some para professional who's, okay. So thank you. I understand that better. The other piece I'm not sure about, we did have a good community email about this, is I guess I would like I think I'd like to see some kind of positive use for week-week. I think the community member who's emailed and suggested the possibility of nature activities being able to happen there. I mean, the big savings is in the staffing, and then utilities could be run lower when it's not in use. What is the plan there? I don't want it to I certainly would not want to rush into putting it for sale, because I think there's value to the property there, but I'm concerned about, like, that would there would have to be a separate vote before anything that major would happen, correct?
So at the time, board member, that we haven't thought about that far, to be honest with you, but most definitely we haven't put up anything for sale. So we haven't even thought that line because it's such a good property. So we're looking at that down the line, but we have so many other things ahead of us at this time. So you are correct.
James.
Yeah, ultimately, it would have to be another vote, right? Because in none of the resolutions did we direct the districts to come up with any resolution with the property, right? So ultimately, you can take a vote on the reconciliation, and we would have to come up and approve whatever the district would actually do with that vacated property.
Okay, so if this vote passes tonight, it will create a situation where we would still have a week-week building that would not have a regular staff in it. And it wouldn't be open on a regular schedule, but it would certainly exist and be owned by us unless otherwise specified, which would have to be a decision later. And I think I'm just, that piece I think is important, because I think there is, and sometimes that might not always be the case with the building, right? But what has me right on the bubble of whether I'm 85% okay with this or not is some kind of guardrails around this will be used somehow in a way that doesn't have an expensive full-time staff in it.
Go ahead, Dr. Tiller.
So to answer your question, the guardrails is the board. So we just make recommendations and the board has to okay it and move forward, so that you are the guardrail as we move forward. So we can't do anything without your direction and bringing anything to you first and some ideas to you first.
Thank you. Go ahead, Lynn.
And I just want to follow up on that by saying, we may be the guardrails, but we do look to our staff and our leadership to bring those ideas. We are not going to necessarily make a decision about buildings 2 or 3 years down the road. We're going to ask them to propose things, right?
Yeah. James.
Since this is a budget matter, right, I think it's very reasonable for us, given if we vote a certain way on this tonight, to follow with a resolution instructing the district to navigate that set of problems so that we don't end up a year from now with an empty building that we're keeping up that doesn't have a purpose, right? So we follow with a resolution, not telling them what to do, but when to have a decision to us, because it is a matter of great concern of mine, not to start incurring expenses, which is contrary to our motivation in the first place. So I agree with you that we do need to take some level of action to make sure that we don't end up in a situation where we're paying utility and potentially maintaining a building that it's not being used.
And that would pertain to any school closure, not just this one. I mean, so, okay. All right, Andrew.
All right, what I will take a chance on this because there are different people here than when Jefferson was closed, right? And so there were board guidelines attached to that Jefferson closure. Okay, and there were people, none of whom are here anymore, flagrantly disregarded at least one of them, and nothing was done about it. Okay, now that is the past. And so what I will do, because I think it is important to have a discussion about what Week will be used for. And certainly these moves will have, the big savings is in not having a staff there all the time, right? And you have to do some cost to keep it a certain temperature to not freeze the pipes and so forth. And I think there's real value in potentially that being not just a nature center of sorts for GBAPs, but perhaps it is of value to our neighboring districts to use something like that. And maybe there's even some revenue there. So I will vote yes with on good faith that a resolution that I will present will get a fair up or down vote, not be just blown off for lack of a second or something. And that would include what would happen after next year for Week. Okay.
All right, I feel like we're ready for this vote. Yeah,
Oh yeah, we're not on. Technically, we didn't move to 8.
yeah, we're moving to 8A now. Could someone please read the motion? Go ahead.
I move that effective July 1st, 2024, the attendance area for Weequahic Elementary School shall be consolidated into the Red Smith Community School 4K through 8 attendance area, and that students residing in the affected boundaries shall attend Red Smith Community School 4K through 8, except under established waiver conditions and procedures.
Second.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm compelled to make a comment here to basically say what is obvious to everyone in this room or anyone who's watching. This is a painful vote. We are heading to making other votes like this, but this is the first one and none of us are taking any joy in it. That's me stating the obvious, but I feel like it's important to acknowledge it. So, Kinsey? I'm sorry, please speak. Okay, anyone else want to add anything? Okay, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay. Can we take 5 minutes? Is that okay? All right, thank you. Right, we're going to reconvene and move on to 8B. We're for those who are watching, we're going to have a series of votes here. There will be some discussion, but the rest of the action items are going to be us taking votes. So would someone commit to just reading all the motions, and someone, can you guys do the motions in the seconds? That'd be great. Thank you. So B,
I move that an 8% base wage increase for educators be applied to the educator salary schedule retroactive to July 1, 2023, for those who are employed as of August 28, 2023, as presented, be approved.
Second.
I think this is one, Brian, that you have to abstain.
I just want to mention that with my wife working in the district, I've removed myself from all conversations when we've gone into closed session, when we've received any emails on this, to completely alleviate myself from any input on this.
Okay, and of course, we'll not be voting on it. So is there any discussion or questions? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion has carried. The results of the individual board member votes are as follows. Becker, yes. McCoy, yes. Leighton and Warren, yes. Welch, yes. Lyerly, yes. Mills abstained. Gerlach, yes.
Thank you. Next is C.
I move that an 8% base wage increase for paraprofessionals retroactive to July 1, 2023, for those that are employed as of August 28, 2023, as listed, be approved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Brian?
Since this is in regard to paraprofessionals, the comments I'm going to make are going to follow through for C, D, E, and F, I believe. While these are listed as salary increases, these are cost of living adjustments. And ever since Act 10, we've had a limit on what we can offer our staff based on the rate of inflation. So this may seem like a significant amount, but once again, this is a cost of living adjustment. That is the most that we are able to under law. But while this is listed as salary increase, it really is a cost of living adjustment. So thank you.
Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. Laura, Leighton and Warren, do you want a voice for it?
Yes, please. I vote yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Thank you. Next is D.
I move that an 8% base wage increase for the trade staff retroactive to July 1st, 2023, for those who are employed as of August 28th, 2023, as listed, be approved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Can I ask unanimous consent to combine E, F, G, H, and I.
Are you all sure how you're gonna vote and? All right. Does it have to be seconded?
Oh, second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we're taking, Kinsey, does that mess things up for you? Okay.
We just did D.
So-
E, F, G, H, I.
And J,
No, I don't think J belongs, my unanimous consent, E, F, G, H, I.
go ahead, Brian.
And Andrew, just for clarification, I'm gonna have that as a motion to combine those, not necessarily unanimous consent. It gets to the same, I think that's what your intent is.
Yeah. So we did a motion to, we moved to combine them and voted yes, and now they're combined.
All right. Let me take let me know when you're ready. Are you ready? Okay,
Lyerly,
Yes.
Leighton and Warren,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Gerlach,
Yes.
McCoy.
yes. Okay. I guess we're ready to go to J. Would someone please read the motion?
I move that an 8% wage increase for administrators be applied to the administrator's salary schedule retroactive to July 1st, 2023. For those who are employed as of August 28, 2023, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay. Next is K.
I'd like to make a motion to combine K, L, M, and N.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Let us know when you're ready, Kinsey. Yeah.
I'll do another voice vote. McCoy,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Mills,
Aye.
Welch,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Leighton and Warren,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Thank you, Kinsey. All right, next we're on to, oh. Edgenuity software purchase. Would someone please read the motion?
I move that Edgenuity be adopted and purchased for the amount of $286,700, $286,707.50 as presented be approved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions? Go ahead, Lynn.
I want to tell everybody a little bit why I'm completely changing my position on this from our last meeting, because I got all kinds of kudos from people who said, good for you, hold on, don't buy that thing. But I didn't know a thing about it. And so I made up my mind to do my homework. And the first thing I did was look for reviews of Edgenuity online. And I did not find a single good review. They were terrible. Now, those that were done during the pandemic, of course, everybody had a terrible time with virtual learning during the pandemic. So I didn't pay too much attention to those. But I copied all of those negative reviews into a document and I sent them to Dr. Tiller. And I said, look, Dr. Tiller, what I found, I don't like this. And he wrote me back and he said, but look at them carefully. None of these had teacher support. He said, I'm proposing a program for credit recovery with teacher support. And then I don't know, maybe he suggested that Nancy Chartier talk to me, but anyway, Nancy reached out to me and I had a long conversation with Nancy. And I left there feeling confident that Nancy and I agreed on a couple important things. One is that she also agrees that it must be teacher supported. And we also agreed that this must be a program of 9 through 12. We're not going to just wait until somebody's, oh, you're not going to graduate. Let's quick set you in front of a computer here and see if we can hurry up and get you to fill in some blanks. It's about learning. It's about making up the learning that you missed. And so then Nancy explained to me that the 4 high school principals each are creating their own plan for how they'll use this in their school if it's adopted. And I then went to East High School and talked to Lori and asked her about her plan. And I learned something that I didn't know. I did not know that East High School does not have Apex. And that when someone is credit deficient at East, she has to send them to West to use the program. Now she will, if we buy this Edgenuity, she will have her own program and she's already got her plan made. She's going to start with math. And she's got 2 math teachers in mind that are going to provide support. She knows what time and what place in the building it's going to happen. She has a plan for adding science and social studies and language arts. And yes, she's going to start at 12th grade because these kids suffered tremendously from the pandemic. And we want to get them up to speed so they can get their diploma. Then she's going to move it down 4 grades or 3 more grades. So I walked out of there feeling like I didn't know a thing about what was being proposed. And yes, I was shocked and dismayed that the next day we found out that the Apex contract was ending and we had no clue. I don't know where that ball got dropped, but I want to point out that we will be paying a lot less for Edgenuity than we did for Apex. I believe the staff is behind this. And also, just for anyone who's listening to this meeting, I want to remind people that this is going to be paid for by ESSER funds. And what ESSER funds are, that does not come from our operating budget. It comes from federal money given to us to recover from the pandemic. And I can't think of anything we need more to recover from the pandemic than this. So I support this. Now I completely changed my mind.
Okay, Andrew.
So as someone who has had brought up concerns in the past and probably have been directly behind some of the rules about what has to be bid out, and why I feel like I'm able to vote yes here pretty confidently. 1 month ago, there was software to support credit recovery programs, and a month from now and a week from now, there is going to be software to support credit recovery programs. And this just happens to be when it's expiring. At a significantly lower cost, I guess my only question is, how do we end up, are we choosing to not have something that was in Apex, or is the better program much less than half the price, and we therefore perhaps didn't know what we were missing until Dr. Tiller showed this new thing to us?
So to answer that question, you're absolutely correct. Edgenuity is a much better program, and the teacher efficacy for Edgenuity will be higher and better in implementing that because the teachers did not like Apex. So once we introduced this to them, we introduced administrators to it. So to let you know, I just don't try to purchase something and shove it down somebody's throat. I make sure it's vetted all the way through. So I will make sure my teachers and my administrators buy into this before they move forward, and they love Edgenuity.
So were we, I mean, there's any loss of any,
But just
Like-
hang on, Andrew.
when I, when I see the cost being reduced by more than half, I mean, were we just paying more than double for something that now that we've seen this, we realized we didn't like that one very much compared to this, and we were just overpaying, or was there anything more, or was there just nothing more and it cost, except cost more?
So it was the whole package. It cost more, but also that it was Edgenuity has much higher rigor, if you will, than Apex does at the time. So as with anything, you learn down the line that you can do better and things come out that's much better as we move forward. So you're absolutely correct. So we learn better and we do better for the children.
James.
So I appreciate your change of opinion, Len, and I'm set to vote on this a particular way. When it was flagged during our working session for me is because we in 2022 we revised our procurement policies and we set a discrete threshold, and we also delineated kind of the responsibilities of the district for purchases over $250,000 for the term of the contract. What this kind of highlighted in reviewing and preparing for this meeting, our rule around procurement has some outs, right? The board can waive informality. The superintendent can, put his or her discretion over a bid and competitive process given certain circumstances. When this came up in August for a contract renewal in August, what happened in my mind was we missed the opportunity to waive informality, right? We missed the opportunity to enact some of these provisions in our contract. So it was less about package A being better or worse than package B, but allowing us to execute our rights as a governing body to say, no, I don't want an informal process. This should really go to competitive bid. And it brings up that I think there are operating procedures within the district where there is either pre-existing direction, which I don't know about, or an assumption that the control of a particular procurement process is within their domain, and there aren't notification periods which allow us to say, we would like to change that, or we would like to impose a different kind of rigor. Their textbooks are included and other curriculum items that are very large purchases. And if the board is to have an opportunity to say, we would like to see a competitive process, we have to have the opportunity to do that. So coming with a contract renewal weeks away doesn't afford us the right to do that. So I'll take this back, and I think either we have to have a conversation about the rule and whether it needs to be modified to carve out certain procurement processes, because it will be a general assumption that someone's qualification will supersede anyone's competitive process, or let's follow the policy.
Sure.
Thank you, James. And I don't understand everything you say about these things, but I think I understand what you're saying. I support this this program for our teachers and students to use, but I do think you're saying we need to figure out why this happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. And I support that also.
Brian.
James, thank you for putting it that way. I agree with what you're saying on that. I think that my concern with the last meeting was the time frame the amount of money and just the general process with it and making sure that we were following board policy with it. It's not my job to evaluate the software program or the credits of it compared to another one. We have staff that do that. I can take that into consideration from what I hear from staff and then from teachers and the input on that. But my concern was with the timeline and the rapid delivery with it. And I agree. I think we need to look at it, but I'm comfortable voting for this, recognizing that whether it was a breakdown in communication or an anomaly with the timing, it's an opportunity for us to learn on this. So.
I'll just chime in, saying more or less the same thing, like this didn't seem like a regular, normal process that we're used to. And I feel rushed and kind of backed into a corner since the contract for Apex is expired. And that is not how we do business. So I will vote in favor of this, but I would rather not see this happen again. I'll keep it at that. So anyone else? Laura.
I'm wondering if within policy, there's a certain guideline of how many months out this should be started to be looked at. Certainly it was prior to Dr. Tiller joining us July 1st that this process could have been started to avoid this. But I'm excited to see what this does for our students.
Okay. Vicky? No? Okay. All right. I think we're ready to take a vote.
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, moving on to P.
I move that the Boys and Girls Club of Green Bay be approved to provide services for the 21st Century Community Learning Centers and or Fund 80 community-based after-school programs for the 2023-24 school year for Dan's and Fort Howard Elementary Schools for a total of $285,457 as presented be approved.
Second.
Questions, discussion? I'll just mention here that every year we vote on this. Every year I feel good about taking this vote because our district has done such a great job in fostering these very, very strong community relationships that are you can't measure how much our kids benefit from these partnerships. So I look forward to taking this vote, and I just wanted to say you know, this is a really good thing that we have going here in Green Bay. So anybody else? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, moving on to Q.
I move that the YMCA of Green Bay be approved to provide services for the 21st Century Community Learning Centers and or Fund 80 community-based after-school programs for the 2023-24 school year for Baird, Beaumont, Doty, Eisenhower, Howe, Sullivan, and Tank Elementary Schools for a total of $1,001,595.25 as presented be approved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
R.
I move that the revisions to Board of Education Policy 383, Animals in School as presented be approved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, moving on to S, and I just want to hit the pause here just 1 second. And just for anyone who might still be watching us, we have had discussions about these. It's not like we're just breezing through this. There has been discussion on all of these items at our last meeting, so. Okay. Oops, you gonna read the motion, read the motion, please?
I move that the revisions to Board of Education Rule 383 Guidelines for Animals in School as presented be approved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, final vote of the night.
I move that the revisions to Board of Education Policy 526 Personnel Records as presented be approved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, that completes our action items. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chairman, may I
Yes.
make just sort of an announcement before we adjourn? If
Yes.
it's not on the agenda, but I just want to say, and I know you all agree with me, but I think it needs to be said publicly. What a wonderful job our staff did at West High School last week, that back to school event. And thank you, Dr. Tiller. That was ingenious. And it was so uplifting. I know a lot of you went to it also, but to go to those booths, our schools each had a booth, and to find in almost every one of them, the principal there. And to see those happy families and to see that everybody got to taste that good GBAP's food from the food truck free of charge. I saw Lori handing out milk. And all the Kinsey was there working. I mean, everybody showed up to help. And then as I was leaving, I ran into one of my neighbors and I said, "Oh, where are your kids?" I thought they had come for the event. And she reminded me, she cleans one of our schools. And she said, "I'm here to clean up." And there were all the cleaning people coming in with their equipment to clean up. It was absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Tiller.
I just want to say that I planted the seed, but it was the wonderful staff that came out, and it shows what can happen when we come together as a district, the beautiful things that we can do as a district. So we're working with the initiative 212, and 212 is from 211 to 212, that extra degree. Water boils at 211 degrees. But at 212, it creates steam, and steam is energy, and steam can move locomotives. So that extra degree, that's what all the staff did. So I just want to say thank you to all the staff as well.
Yes. I know there has been some community discussion about how it was paid for. We had an enormous amount of donated food and various things from the community. The community really stepped up, and our community partners did as well to help cover the cost of this event. And it was really a huge joint effort by a lot of people. So thank you for reminding us, Lynn. It was a wonderful event. I enjoyed myself enormously. So, all right, with that, we are adjourned. Or did we do a motion? Okay, sorry. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
You have been watching the Green Bay Area Public School District's Board of Education meeting. please visit the school district's website, www.gbaps.org, for more information on the district and future meeting dates. If you cannot fully access the information on this video, please let us know the accessibility issue you are having by calling 920-448-2025 or by email at communications@gbaps.org. We will try to provide the information to you in an alternative format and/or make the necessary improvements to make the information accessible.